My wife admitted sleeping with her gym trainers several times, yet claimed she still loved me and needed to think, then told her friend, "Victor makes me feel so attractive, unlike at home." If you had seen my life a year ago, you probably would have said I was doing pretty well. From the outside, I had what most men look for: a good job, good health, married to a woman who seemed to be supportive and ambitious. But here is the thing about a perfect life: it does not take much for the fakeness of that image to be revealed. I'm a 36-year-old man. For the last 8 years worked hard in a national restaurant group. I started as a manager in my mid-20s. I kept pushing myself and became a regional operations manager, overseeing 5 locations. Good salary, long hours, a lot of responsibility. I am not the flashy type. I do not post my life on social media or try to impress strangers. I believe in showing up every day and earning my way. 3 years ago, I married Lindsay. We met through mutual friends at a corporate charity event. She was 30 years old at the time. She worked as a commercial interior designer, mainly on corporate office renovations and high-end hospitality projects. I remember thinking she had drive, ambition. She was polished, dressed elegantly, always seemed to have a plan for every conversation. The relationship moved fast, but at the time, nothing seemed wrong. We had chemistry, similar values, or so I thought. After a year of dating, we moved in together. I rented a 2-bedroom loft in a great neighborhood, good credit, lease in my name. 6 months later, I proposed to her. The wedding was small but elegant, mostly family and close friends. No drama. Married life started well. Lindsay worked hard, always looking for new clients, attending expos, and networking constantly. I respected that. My job kept me traveling some weeks, covering multiple restaurants, training managers, handling crises. We balanced it pretty well. I did my part at home. We had separate bank accounts, but we shared the important expenses: mortgage, groceries, vacations. If there was a sore spot in all of this, it was Lindsay's circle of friends. It is not that they were bad people, but they had this unspoken vibe of hierarchy. 2 lawyers, a doctor, a vice president of finance, and a marketing executive. All the type who love to remind you of their titles. They talked about their jobs as if they ran Fortune 500 companies while drinking very expensive wine and eating Instagram-worthy cheese boards. They dropped names like they were confetti: my client in Dubai, our portfolio in Manhattan, dinner with the chief executive officer next week. Half the time I wondered if they actually worked or just curated their social media to look like they did. When Lindsay introduced me, they were polite at first, but over time I noticed the subtle comments, the little digs about people who work in restaurants and the hours in the service industry. I did not care much. I built my career with my hands and my brain, not with connections or graduate degrees. I did not need their approval, but Lindsay did. If one of her friends bought a new car, Lindsay would start looking for one. If they booked luxury trips, she had to one-up them on Instagram. At the time, I attributed it to harmless competition. The second year of marriage was busy, but stable. We had routines: gym, dinners out, occasional weekend trips. Lindsay traveled more for work. I did not question it. I knew her job was about attracting corporate clients and presenting large redesign projects. She always came back with stories and photos of her work. Things started to change about 6 months before everything came crashing down. Lindsay got a huge opportunity. A luxury hotel chain was going to renovate several of its main properties, and her firm got part of the contract. It was her biggest project to date. The commissions and bonuses would be enormous if she pulled it off. Naturally, I was happy for her. We went out to celebrate. I remember her glowing across the table, her phone vibrating with congratulatory messages from her friends. Every word I said to her that night was sincere. I was proud of her. This kind of contract could launch her career. But right after that dinner, the small changes began. She spent more time at networking events, more nights out, more trips that were not clearly related to project meetings. The phone almost never left her hand. Messages would arrive late at night, which she always excused as client matters. Her way of dressing also changed. It was not just her usual work clothes. Suddenly, it was designer shoes, tighter dresses, flashy jewelry, expensive new perfume. Again, I am not the type to control what his wife wears. I do not operate like that. But something did not feel like the Lindsay I had married. Our conversations became more transactional, less about us, more about her or what she needed me to do at home so she could focus on work. When I asked if everything was okay, she would roll her eyes and say, "Jason, I am under incredible pressure. Can you be understanding for once?" So I stepped back, gave her space, focused on my work. I did not need more drama at home while managing 5 restaurants and dealing with my team's problems. But that feeling in my gut would not go away. Something was not right. Within weeks of her getting the contract, Lindsay became someone I barely recognized. The long hours I understood, but her whole attitude changed towards me, towards our life. She started talking about the project as if it were her entire identity. Every dinner conversation revolved around the hotel contract, her clients, her contacts. If I mentioned anything about my stores, staff issues, new marketing strategies, or training programs, she seemed distracted or would interrupt me. Worse, she started talking down to me. Little digs about my blue-collar job, comments like, "You would not understand, Jason. Corporate clients are a different world." I put up with it. I did not need to get defensive. My paychecks were fine, thank you. I did not build my career to impress cocktail party circles, but inside, a wall was going up. I started to see a side of her I had ignored before, the side that cared too much about status. The wardrobe change accelerated. She started buying designer handbags that cost more than my entire collection of suits. Expensive shoes, clothes more suited for Manhattan nightlife than a client meeting. Again, her money, her choice. But let us not kid ourselves about what all that conveys. The late nights multiplied, client dinners turned into after parties with clients. She would come home at 2 or 3 in the morning with no explanation. She would just say she was exhausted from work and walk past me. At that point, I was not behaving like a jealous husband. Instead, I adjusted. I worked longer hours, poured myself into my restaurants, kept the house running, the bills paid. I was not going to beg for attention like a second-rate boyfriend. I also started adjusting my own routine. I went back to the gym, improved my diet, cut out junk food, took care of my appearance. From my point of view, if my marriage was turning into a battlefield, the least I could do was get in shape. My numbers in the district, the best quarter in 3 years. Focus has a funny way of sharpening when you have nothing left to lose. But inside, that visceral instinct was awake and getting stronger. I started noticing small details. New perfume on nights when she said she was working late at the office. A new manicure every 2 days. When I asked her to schedule even a single date night, she would respond with irritation or excuses. Then came a weekend in April. We had her sister's kids at our house. Lindsay promised she would watch them while her sister went on a trip. We set up the old nanny cam in the living room just to keep an eye on the kids during playtime. They were picked up late on Sunday. That night, Lindsay barely said a word to me. She got another urgent call and locked herself in the bedroom. I let it go. On Monday night, after a tough shift at one of my locations, I came home, poured myself a drink, and started deleting the recordings from the cloud storage. The camera records continuously. If you do not delete the footage, the service charges more for storage. That is when it happened. I was reviewing the timeline out of habit, making sure there were no sensitive videos of the children left. At one point, around midnight on Saturday, I saw a movement. Out of curiosity, I rewound, and there was Lindsay, dressed in a black dress I had never seen. Heels, makeup as if she were going to a club, not a work dinner. But that was not what froze me. Behind her, with his hand casually on her lower back, was a man I did not recognize. Tall, in an expensive suit. They walked straight through the living room, laughing quietly, and disappeared upstairs. I froze. I rewound it twice. I watched it again. That man was not a simple client or a design representative. It was Sean, her ex-boyfriend from college, a corporate lawyer. I remembered him now. She had mentioned him in passing years ago. We did not work out as a couple, she had once said. But we stayed on good terms. Yeah, right, good terms. Bringing him to my house. Walking right past the room where her nephews had played that very day. I sat there for a long time. No rage, no yelling, just a cold clarity setting in. The switch in my head flipped. This was not stress anymore. This was betrayal. For a moment, I stared at my own reflection on the screen. The man sitting there looked older, angrier, and stupid. Stupid for trusting. But if she was dumb enough to get caught on a nanny cam, she was surely hiding more. I knew I should not confront her right then. Emotional confrontations give power to the other side. They can twist the story, fake tears, bring in friends to back them up. I did not want noise, I wanted proof. The next day, I stopped by my parents' house. It was early, I had not slept much. Mom was already up making breakfast, as always. She looked at me and said, "Sit down." I sat down and told her directly. Something is wrong at home. I do not know where this is going, but it is serious. She did not ask any more questions, just poured me a coffee. "You are not going through this alone, Jason," she said. "Do you hear me? We are here. No matter how bad it gets. I have always been the one to carry everything. Just remember it is okay to lean on us when you need to. When it really counts, you do not need 1,000 words. Just knowing someone has your back." I left there knowing they supported me, no matter what. That same day, I left work early, went to a specialized electronics store, and bought a high-end hidden camera with audio recording, a professional-grade device. I installed it that night in the corner of the dining room. I had already checked my state's laws. Recording in your own home is legal as long as you are a resident. I was not going to leave them any legal loopholes. Then, I waited with no questions, no change in my tone. I played my role as the busy husband. I let her think I suspected nothing. In my mind, the chess game had begun. From the moment that camera was activated, everything changed. I was no longer the husband, no longer the guy hoping this was just a rough patch. I was a man sitting across from an active grenade, and I was not about to lose this fight. The device I installed was flawless, a tiny lens, wide angle, with crisp audio. You would not notice it unless you took the whole room apart. Lindsay always hosted her weekly girls' nights in that dining room. Cheap wine, very expensive charcuterie, and endless conversations about how hard life was at the top. For 2 weeks, I waited, acting normal. I got up early, worked long hours, came back late, spoke little. I could tell Lindsay noticed I was not engaging much, but she was so self-absorbed she did not ask why. Her behavior kept getting worse, more nights out, more provocative outfits for meetings. Once when I glanced at her phone, she locked the screen and gave me a fake smile. "Fine, keep digging your own grave." Then came that Thursday night. I got home around 11 at night. One of my locations had a late inspection. The house was empty. I poured myself a drink, sat at my desk, and opened the live feed from the camera on my laptop. It had already recorded for 4 hours. I started to review. The first hour was the usual. Lindsay and her friends arriving, laughter, glasses clinking, the typical superficial conversations. But about 2 hours in, the tone changed. It was like someone flipped a switch. The volume dropped. The voices got lower. I leaned in, adjusted the audio, and there it was. Lindsay started talking about me, not as a husband, not as the man she had shared 3 years of marriage with. She talked about me as an obstacle, a problem to be managed. A friend, Amanda, a corporate lawyer, laughed and said, "If he causes trouble, kill him. And say it was self-defense." The whole group laughed and Lindsay did not object. She did not say, "That is crazy," or "I would never do that." No, she laughed with them. Then she said, "It will not be necessary. He is going to lose control when he finds out. We will record it. We will make him look unstable. You know how it goes." Another one chimed in. "And if he tries to kick you out, we call it financial abuse. That will sink him." They kept talking, discussing how to provoke me, how to get me to react, how to stage scenes in front of cameras, even how to edit the footage if necessary. They made open references to previous cases where women had flipped the narrative in court. Lindsay boasted that her ex, Sean, the same one she brought to my house, would handle the legal side if it came to that. I sat there and listened to the whole thing. And what hit me the hardest was not even the joke about killing me. It was the audacity, the cold, calculating nature, the way they talked as if my entire life, my career, my reputation, and my freedom were just a chess piece they could move at their convenience. They had no idea they were giving me the exact blueprint to destroy them. When the recording finished, I saved 3 backups, one in the cloud, another on an encrypted USB drive, and another on an offline external hard drive stored in my office. Then I called someone I trusted, Dan, a detective who had been a regular customer at my main bar for years. Quiet guy, straight shooter. When I explained what I had, he did not waste time with pleasantries. Document everything. Do not confront her yet. Keep acting normal. If they think they have already won, they will let their guard down. And that is exactly what I did. Over the next 48 hours, I reviewed every second of the recording again. I marked the timestamps, logged direct quotes, organized everything. Then I contacted a good lawyer, a serious one, not a cheap recommendation from work. We drafted the formal separation papers with a clear eviction notice. I had every right. The lease was in my name and in my state. 30 days' notice is more than fair. I was not illegally evicting her. I was giving her exactly what the law allows. On Saturday morning, Lindsay came in after another client dinner, around 3 in the morning. She did not even bother to hide it anymore. When she woke up, the papers were on the kitchen counter. My lawyer had also sent them electronically to leave a clear record. I was sitting at the dining room table when she came down, her hair a mess, still with some of last night's makeup on. She read the first page and snorted. "You are overreacting. We can get through this." I did not say a word, just looked at her, calm, firm, not giving her an inch of emotional ground. That threw her off more than if I had yelled. I knew they were coming. The messages popping up on Lindsay's phone told me everything. I went about my routine. I had dinner alone, cleaned the kitchen, reviewed some work reports. I did not say a word to her. I let her stew in her own silence. The calm unsettled her more than if I had lost my temper. Around 6 in the evening, the doorbell rang. I remained seated. A few seconds later, the door flew open. No knock, no courtesy. Amanda came in first. Expensive suit, haughty expression. Behind her came the others, Chloe, the doctor, Brian, the finance executive, and 2 more I barely knew. Lindsay followed her like a general with her army. She gave me a haughty look, as if this were her moment to change the narrative. I was still sitting at the dining room table, arms crossed, calm. I already had my phone nearby with the camera ready. The house cameras were also recording. Amanda started the show. "Jason, we are here because Lindsay told us everything. You are trying to illegally evict her. That is financial abuse." I said nothing, just looked at them. Chloe chimed in. "You have created a hostile environment. We are witnesses now." Again, silence. No reaction. They wanted me to explode, to yell, to give them a line they could manipulate. Since I did not, the tone changed. They started raising their voices, surrounding me, accusing me of being controlling, toxic, dangerous. Lindsay was behind them, arms crossed, playing the victim, as if she had rehearsed it. I stood up calmly, phone in hand. "You all need to leave. You are now trespassing. This is your only warning. Lindsay has already been served with eviction papers. This is no longer her legal residence." Amanda scoffed. "We are not leaving. You cannot intimidate us." I went to the living room, picked up the phone, and dialed 911 on speakerphone so they could all hear. In a clear, calm voice, I told the operator, "My name is Jason. I have multiple intruders in my home. They are refusing to leave and are becoming aggressive. I need immediate police assistance." That is when everything exploded. Brian grabbed a framed photo of my grandmother and smashed it on the floor. Amanda pushed me on her way to the kitchen, yelling that she was gathering evidence of the abusive environment. One of the others tried to snatch my phone. I blocked her with one arm and moved towards the door. And that is when the real attack began. Amanda lunged at me, trying to grab me. Brian hit me on the head with her purse. Chloe, the doctor no less, lunged from the side and pushed me against the kitchen island. I felt hands grabbing my arms, trying to restrain me. In the midst of the chaos, I saw Lindsay standing aside, not stopping them, not surprised, just cold, watching. Then I saw a metallic flash. Amanda had grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter. She pointed it at me, yelling, "Stop resisting. You are finished." My heart rate remained steady, my voice calm. "The police will be here in 2 minutes." It did not matter. Brian punched me in the face. I felt my lips split. I did my best to maintain control. No wild swings, no retaliation. I just protected my face and waited. The front door burst open moments later. Uniformed officers entered with their guns drawn. Everybody on the ground. "Now!" Amanda screamed and waved the knife in the direction of the officers. One of them gave her a command. She kept waving the knife. They shot her with the taser on the spot. Chloe and Brian were restrained and handcuffed. The others were forcibly removed, yelling about injustice. Lindsay started crying theatrically. Too late. The body cameras were recording. The house cameras had everything too. I was shaking, but still standing. One of the officers helped me sit on the couch. Another picked up the knife and bagged it as evidence. The paramedics arrived minutes later. I had a deep cut on my right arm. It was not a stab wound, but it was a serious injury from when Amanda waved the knife near me. A split lip, a bruised face. They took me to the emergency room with a police escort. 12 stitches in my arm. Multiple contusions recorded and photographed. The nurse who treated me shook her head when I told her what happened. Staying calm probably saved your life. I did not feel lucky. I felt cold and focused. At the hospital, a victim advocate met with me, explained my rights, and walked me through the legal process that was coming. The officers had already reviewed the security footage from my house. The case was solid. Amanda, Breon, and Chloe spent the weekend in the county jail, charged with aggravated assault, battery, criminal trespassing, and use of a deadly weapon. The other two who did not physically attack me were charged with vandalism and trespassing. Temporary restraining orders were issued against all of them. When I got home on Monday, the house was a mess. Broken glass, bloodstains, overturned furniture, but I did not flinch. I documented everything and cleaned the place meticulously. I also started preparing a personal contingency plan, changed all my passwords, froze my credit, then sat down at my laptop and backed up every recording again. The game was not over, it was just beginning. If they thought their little stunt was going to scare me, they underestimated the man she married. I was sharper than ever. The house looked like a war zone, but I was not focused on cleaning. I was focused on winning. I documented everything, every broken piece of furniture, every bloodstain, every overturned chair. I took hundreds of photos, copied the security recordings 3 more times, printed the police report, logged my medical records. The detective in charge of the case called me the next morning. "We have them, Jason, but be prepared, they are going to play dirty." And he was not wrong. By the end of the week, the smear campaign was already underway. Lindsay filed a retaliatory police report, claiming I had been financially and emotionally abusive throughout the marriage. She claimed I had forced her to stay in the marriage through manipulation and threats. I read the report line by line, pure fiction, but I was not surprised. Then came the attacks at work. Lindsay showed up at one of my busiest restaurants during the Friday night rush, a full dining room, screaming that I was abusive and dangerous. Security escorted her out. She came back 2 days later. Same scene. I remained calm and let the company's legal team handle it. Within 48 hours, we obtained a workplace protection order. Then the online attacks began. Lindsay and her friends posted heavily edited snippets of my home security footage, clips without audio, cut to make it look like I was the aggressor. Their mistake was underestimating how many people had already seen the full recording: the police, lawyers, the prosecutor. My lawyer acted quickly. We legally requested the full, unedited recordings from the building's camera system. The timeline was irrefutable: me sitting calmly, them escalating, Amanda grabbing the knife, the assault captured from multiple angles. The prosecutor's office took it seriously, especially after seeing the online manipulation attempts. Meanwhile, her lawyer boyfriend, Sean, the same one she brought to my house, started sending me threatening emails. Also to my detective friend. Barely veiled threats. "These charges are not going to stick. If you continue with this, you will end up ruined." Every email was documented and sent to the prosecutor and the state bar. My in-laws, the same ones who once hugged me at Christmas, started showing up unannounced at my parents' house, demanding they convince me to drop the charges. They made that mistake 4 times. The 5th time, my father, a retired Marine who does not tolerate intimidation, requested a restraining order. It was granted. Despite everything, I remained calm. I went to work. I trained my managers. I went to physical therapy for my arm. I backed up my evidence. I let my lawyer do her job. The legal process moved forward. The prosecution offered plea deals: 24 months in state prison for the 3 main aggressors, 18 months of probation and community service for the other 2. They rejected them, believing their professional status would save them. That arrogance shattered when one of them, Doris, a marketing executive, could not take the pressure. Her lawyer contacted us privately and offered full cooperation. That is when the bombshell dropped. The group chat. Hundreds of messages dating back 2 months. Plans to provoke me, plans to record and edit videos. Discussions about what kind of accusations would be most effective in court. Links to cases where women faked self-defense to cover up real assaults, and the phrase that changed the entire tone of the case. Honestly, you should just kill him and say it was self-defense, followed by Lin Sai's response. It will not be necessary. He is going to lose control when he finds out. We will record it. We will make him look unstable. Game over. But what really mattered was not just one message. It was the entire pattern. Weeks of planning, manipulation, and a premeditated assault that confirmed their intentions. The prosecution now had everything. Unedited video, the police body cameras, my medical records, the threatening emails, the complete group chat, and my rock-solid timeline. They also discovered that Sean helped Lin Sai draft the false police report. Another serious ethical violation. Worse, a forensic analysis of the phones showed that Sean tried to contact jury members through mutual acquaintances. By September, the case was completely closed. The pre-trial hearings were brutal. The defense team filed every possible motion to suppress the evidence. They failed. The judge ruled that the group chat was admissible, the video was admissible, the audio of the kill him conversation was admissible. Meanwhile, the state bar's ethics investigation against Sean intensified. Multiple violations were confirmed. My lawyer kept me informed, but I remained focused on my life. I moved to a new apartment with improved security. I kept working. My company supported me. I was promoted to regional manager overseeing 5 locations in the midst of the chaos. Every time Lin Sai tried to defame me publicly, it backfired. More people saw through her theatrics. More friends contacted me privately to support me. When the trial date was set, I was not nervous. I was ready. I had done what they thought I could not do, stay calm, document everything, and build a case they could not escape. And soon, the entire courtroom would hear exactly what Lin Sai and her friends had planned for me. When the week of the trial finally arrived, I was prepared. I had spent the previous months with my head down, rebuilding my life. I was not going to be one of those guys who let a bitter fight consume them. I remained disciplined. I managed my region like clockwork. I worked with my lawyer. I kept my evidence solid. The courtroom was packed. The news had spread. The local press picked up the story after the arrest records were made public. 3 women with professional careers accused of violent assault. The online smear campaign only made it worse for them. I walked in calm and clean, with no theatrics. The jury saw exactly what they needed to see, a man who did not flinch when they tried to destroy him. The prosecution's opening statement was surgical. They presented the timeline, my calm demeanor, the coordinated assault, the smear campaign, the group chat, and the recorded audio that completely shattered the defense. When it was my turn to testify, I sat up straight and firm. I told my story simply, without drama, without exaggeration, just facts. I described how I discovered Lin Sai's betrayal on the nanny cam, how I calmly placed the hidden camera, how I heard them laughing as they talked about killing me and faking self-defense, how I decided not to confront them, but to gather evidence and follow the legal process. The jury was paying attention, you could tell. My lawyer and I had already prepared for the defense team's tactics. They tried to paint me as controlling, emotionally abusive, the usual script, but every accusation fell apart under cross-examination. When the unedited video was played in court, me sitting quietly while they barged in and then physically attacked me, the jury saw the truth with their own eyes. When the group chat messages were projected with timestamps, usernames, and that infamous line, "Kill him," and say it was self-defense, there were audible gasps in the room. Crystal clear. Straight from girls' night. The same voices the jury had just seen in the video, laughing as they planned to frame me, manipulate recordings, provoke me. Lin Sai's own voice leading the whole thing. The defense team's shoulders slumped. They knew it was lost. The final blow came when Doris, the friend who turned on them, testified. She recounted step by step how they had planned the attack in my apartment, specifically because of the security system, believing they could edit the video to make it look like I was the aggressor. She described how Sean had instructed Lin Sai to file the false police report and how to provoke me into reacting. Even Lin Sai's own testimony went badly. Under cross-examination, she let it slip that the confrontation had been discussed weeks before she was served with the separation papers, contradicting her previous statements to the police. When the verdict was read, Lin Sai's face went white. Her father buried his head in his hands. Her mother whispered something to her. "What have you done?" The look Lin Sai gave her back was pure venom. I stood tall, with my back straight, looked at her once, and then just looked through her. She did not even deserve eye contact anymore. When the closing arguments were finished, you could feel the weight of the moment. The jury only needed 6 hours to deliberate. Verdict: guilty on all charges. Amanda, Brianne, and Chloe, the 3 main aggressors, were sentenced to 36 months in state prison with no possibility of parole for the first 24 months, plus 5 years of probation. The other 2, who had previously accepted plea deals, received 18 months of probation and 300 hours of community service. Doris, who cooperated fully and showed genuine remorse, received 12 months of probation. Lindsay's separate trial came shortly after. Based on the mountain of evidence, including the group chat and her own perjury during the first trial, she was charged with conspiracy, filing a false police report, and perjury. She accepted a plea deal, 18 months in county jail with 6 months suspended, 3 years of probation, mandatory anger management courses, and $45,000 in restitution for my medical expenses, property damage, and legal fees. Her license as a commercial designer was suspended pending an investigation, but worse, her reputation was destroyed. Sean, the great lawyer who thought he could manipulate the system, was suspended by the state bar in December, pending permanent disbarment. The ethics committee confirmed that his license would be revoked forever. The committee found multiple violations, helping to file a false report, tampering with evidence, attempting to influence jury members through personal contacts. The prosecution also filed separate criminal charges against him for obstruction of justice and conspiracy. The civil lawsuits were not long in coming. My apartment complex sued for property damage and reputational harm. Lindsay's former employer also sued her for breach of contract and damage to their image. They wanted to cut all ties with her. Her family did not take it well. Her parents tried to approach me. Her mother cried, begging me not to ruin her daughter's future any further. Her father said nothing, just stood there, looking 10 years older than when the trial began. I told them one sentence: "Your daughter did this to herself." They had nothing to say to that. I filed a civil lawsuit against Lindsay's parents for intentional infliction of emotional distress. We reached a settlement for $25,000, and they issued a formal apology through their lawyer. A month later, I heard through mutual friends that they quietly put their house up for sale. The news had spread quickly, and they could no longer show their faces in public. Too many people knew the real story. I did not bother to keep track of them after that. For me, they are not my problem anymore. And I moved on. As soon as my case was closed, I became even more focused. I came out of all this with everything intact: my career, my reputation, my freedom, and more focused than ever. My company supported me completely. I now manage 7 locations, all with record numbers. My life is calmer, more intentional. I have built a stronger circle, eliminated distractions, and evolved in ways I did not expect. I also made sure to completely close the legal side. After Lindsay's sentencing, my lawyer filed for divorce. With everything on the record, it was not even a fight. No alimony, no shared assets. The decree came quickly. She is legally out of my life now, exactly where she should be. Lindsay and her group will have to explain their decisions for years. I am not going to waste a second thinking about them. My life is moving forward, fast, clean, and on my own terms. My company formally promoted me to regional director. I oversee 7 locations. Now, the legal chaos, in fact, highlighted my professionalism and self-control. I moved to a new, secure apartment on the other side of town. The building management company, aware of the case, added additional security measures at no cost. Throughout this whole process, one thing became very clear to me. People will do anything to turn the world upside down if it benefits them. But if you stay calm, document everything, and trust the process, the truth always finds a way to stand on its own. If I had reacted emotionally that night, raised my voice, or responded physically, it would probably be me facing charges. Instead, I let their own arrogance and sense of superiority bury them.